Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online video with me, Sherman. Today guys, I bring you kind of a classic, kind of a revamp of an old build with a new name. Not going to try and name the old build because it was a long time ago, but I did release a build similar to this in the past, and this is just an updated version. So, this is the Shadow Priest. It is a Nightblade healer build. It is made for mostly dungeon play. It can work in trials really well, but it is mostly for dungeon play. So, before I continue, disclaimer, this is not a meta build. This is its own kind of thing, more of a character build than it is anything else. And I just want to be clear on that so people understand that this build does not play into that factor. I do have some coming. They were going to be coming out in a few weeks, but it will take time. So, let's go ahead and get started by taking a look at the build. So this build is a Dark Elf Nightblade. Any race can play this build quite well. Any of the Magicka-based races are going to be some of the better options because of their max Magicka, their, magic damage, that kind of stuff. Even Orc is really good at it. But as you can see, we have 64 points in the Magicka, 0 in the health, 0 in the stamina. This gives a 38k max Magicka pool with 24k health, 18k stamina. We do have 2,334 mag recovery with a 955 stam recovery. We do need that stam recovery due to some of the changes that were made to the game, and it kind of does help to have that higher stam recovery due to the fact that we can actually utilize that resource a lot more effectively now. So, we do have a 3,025 spell damage with a 43% spell critical, 9,000 spell penetration. Weapon damage, weapon crit, and physical penetration aren't really necessary on this build because this build focuses primarily on Magicka itself. You can do some stuff to alter that with your champion points and a few other things if you want to. But this build works out really well as is. So 13k spell penetration, almost 10k physical, and that is unbuffed with a 1321, of course, crit resist, which is natural to all people. Taking a look at our advanced stats, you can see we have a lot of reduced costs in bash, block, break free, and roll dodge. That is because we are in light armor, and light armor actually gives you a lot better reduced cost in those things, so that helps. And our block mitigation even is coming in really well at 54%. Alright, now that we've looked at that, let's go ahead and take a look at our gear. Starting with our monster set, then we'll go to the body set, and then we'll go to the jewelry and weapons. Starting with our monster set, we are running Bogdan's. Bogdan's is actually a really good set. They call it the Flame, it's actually the Night Flame set. A lot of people just call it Bogdan. But the reason why it's a really good set is they made a change to this a while back, and it is even better now. So it adds 1,096 max Magicka, and then when you heal yourself or an ally, you have a 20% chance to summon a totem for 6 seconds that heals you and your allies within 5 meters for 3,198 health every second. This effect can occur every 10 seconds. The reason why this set works so good with the Nightblade is because the Nightblade healer itself actually does a lot of hots or heal over times. And it's very good with that because it gives that 20% chance, a greater chance to fire or to proc, so you get Bogdan's up a lot more. Moving on to our next set, and this is one where people are going to question and wonder why. But War Maidens is a very, very powerful set with the Nightblade. Every single one of the Nightblade's abilities is magic damage based. So this really plays well with the Nightblade in general and makes him a very good choice to use this armor set. So, 2-piece and spell critical, 3-piece max Magicka, 4-piece spell damage, 5-piece adds 600 spell damage to your magic damage abilities. Now, this build can use an ice staff, I will tell you that now, and it works really good with that, with the ice staff, resto staff combination, but this one runs a dual resto staff. And there's a lot of reasons why. It's because of the way that the class plays and the way that it can utilize resto staff abilities along with its own class abilities to make for a very optimal healer. And this set just plays into that so well. Alright. Moving on to our next set is the jewelry and weapons, and that is Worm Cult. Now, this is not one that a lot of people use anymore or use at all in a lot of cases, but it's a very good set for what it offers in group play, especially for people looking to have an easier time managing resources. So the 2-piece adds spell damage, 3-piece max magicka, 4-piece mag recovery, and then the 5-piece grants 145 magic recovery to you and up to 11 group members within 28 meters of you. And that's why I say this build is really good for dungeon play. Is in dungeons you don't have the tools like you do, a lot of the tools that you do in a trial group. So this just gives the healer the ability to give resources to their allies more efficiently than using, than also using something like Magicka Steel. It's not that this build doesn't have it; it has it in ways that makes it quite interesting. So, all right. What we're going to do with the armor now is we're going to go over the traits, enchants, and armor types. Of course, we're going to start with the armor type first. On the helm and shoulders, we're running a heavy helm and medium shoulders with 5 light on the body. This gives you access to having the light armor active skill, which is going to be really handy in certain situations where you might be struggling and you need a shield. So, going over traits now. Reinforced helm. This is going to give you that higher resistance in this armor type or armor piece. Now, once you do get comfortable with the build, you can change the traits if you feel like you need to, but this setup that I have it set for is really good for long-term play and also short-term play. And what I mean by short-term play is like to help you get an understanding of how the build works, and then you can change it and alter it whenever you need to. Moving on to the leg and chest, we are running Invigorating. This gives you a little bit of health, magic, and stamina recovery, and that's why we have such a high mag recovery. We have a little bit of a health recovery, and we have a decent stamina recovery as well. So remember that. Legs and chest are Invigorating. On the smaller pieces, like the shoulder, gloves, belt, and boots, we are running 4 Divines, because we are running the Thief Mundus Stone, and that's going to give you the better effect on your Mundus Stone. Now, I do want to point this out, drinks and stuff. So we are using Spell Power Pots, and we are going to be using the Witch Mother's Potent Brew for the max magicka, max health, and mag recovery. There are other foods you can use that do the same, that are better, but this is cheaper. So it's really up to the person to decide, do they want to use the RTM Takeaway Broth or this for their magic recovery kind of thing, additional magic recovery. Alright, so really good setup on the traits there. Now on to the enchants. The helm, chest, and legs, we are using Tri-Stat enchants. This is going to maximize your attributes across the board, giving you that good amount of health, magic, and stamina for survivability, for stamina, for blocking and dodge rolling, or sorry, the health for survivability, and then the stamina for the block and that, and then it also gives you magicka, which you're based on. On all the smaller pieces, we are using mag enchants. This is going to give you a much better magicka pool than having more tri-stats here, or even if you went all tri-stat or all mag glyphs in your armor, which you can do. you'll end up with only like 41,000 max magicka, which you don't really need. 38,000 is more than enough to do the content. Alright, moving on to the jewelry now. We are running 2 Tri-Rune rings, one with a spell damage enchant, and that is just to get our spell damage over 3,000. Because a lot of our heals are going to heal for a lot more with that higher spell damage. And with the higher spell crit, we're also going to crit heal a little bit more effectively with our HOTS. Because remember, a lot of our heals are heals over time. The mag recovery is for that recovery. And then, of course, we are running 2 Tri-Rune rings here to give us maximized health, magic, and stamina as well. Now, you do not have to do this if you don't want to. This is just my preferred playstyle, but I do suggest you try it out and see if you like it. Moving on to the last and final piece, the necklace. We are running a prismatic enchant, and that gives you health, magicka, and stamina recovery. Now, we are using an infused trait to give us a higher effect on our enchant, so over a 60% increase. So we go to 134 mag, health, and stam recovery. That's going to give us that higher recovery pool in stamina, and then with the invigorating, it's going to add that and just make it a little bit bigger. Now, I do want to show this so you guys can see. Even if you have a potion going, like, it doesn't change your stam recovery, but you do go up to 2811 mag recovery. And that's a lot more. You have almost 3,000 mag recovery with this build, and you still have this 3,630 spell damage, which altogether really amplifies your ability in dungeons to not only keep your group alive, but it also helps you with some of the damage aspects of the way this build works. So really good there with that. And then, of course, with all the recoveries, it still gives you that good amount of resources coming in. Alright. Moving on to the weapons now. Starting with the front bar, we do have a Restoration Staff of the Worm Cult. Yes, this build can run dual Resto Staffs if you want to, but if you also want, you can run a Lightning Staff or an Ice Staff or a Fire Staff here. It's really up to you. I like this build with a dual Resto because of you can take advantage of a few things. So mainly they do magic damage. So it does get this when you do the channel, the long heavy attack, because it is considered a channeled attack. It does get the 600 spell damage bonus, but light attacks do not. Don't ask me why. Haven't figured it out. It's probably something in the coding that the devs haven't changed yet, but now that I've mentioned it, they probably will. But we are using a weakening enchant on an infused staff. This is going to give you reducing the weapon and spell damage of your enemies by 452 for 5 seconds. And this is primarily when you're fighting boss encounters. Lots of heavy attacks with this build on the front bar. On the back bar, if you need resources, we do have an infused absorb magicka enchant. And this does magic damage. It also restores magicka and has that chance of applying the minor magicka steal. You're not going to need it, though, because this build actually has minor magicka steal built in in a real effective way. Alright, now that we've done that, let's go ahead and take a look at our skills. So, as I always cover in the past, and will always do in the future, make sure you unlock all the passives to the things you're using. In this case, all your class passives, weapon passives, whether it's Restoration Staff or if you're using Instruction Staff as well. Use the passives in those as much as you can, because they will help out in the long run. Light armor, medium armor, heavy armor, you're going to want to get all the passives. And with light armor, I do suggest getting the Harness Magicka skill, because this is going to help you out in so many situations where you need to keep yourself alive just a little bit better. World, of course, Soul Magic, Fighters Guild, Mages Guild, Sigil Order, Undaunted, Alliance War. You only need 2 passives, really. which I didn't unlock on this one. And that is the continuous attack, because this gives you mount speed all the time, and then support, magic aid, and of course get your racial passives. And then when it comes to alchemy and provisioning, get the medicinal use passive and provisioning, gourmand, and connoisseur. These are going to help you out in long term. So really, really focus on those for long term play. All right. Now, going over the skills we have on our bar. And the great thing about this build is you have 2 resto stabs. You're going to see I don't have any skills slotted. That's because they're not necessarily needed. But if you do need them, you have access to them. And you can easily swap them out with some of the abilities here to give you certain things. And I'll do that. I'll cover that as I'm going over each of the skills. So starting with the first skill, we do have Funnel Health. This is going to be our primary heal over time that we're going to keep up all the time. So this does magic damage to an enemy when cast, so you do have to have a target. It heals you and 2 other nearby allies for 65% of the damage inflicted over 2 seconds for 10 seconds. It is basically like rapid regeneration on crack. Next ability we have is Debilitate. Now, the reason we have this ability is, yes, it does do magic damage. Yes, it does slow the movement of the enemy hit, but it's mainly because each tick applies the overcharged status effect, inflicting minor magic steal for 4 seconds, causing you and your allies to restore 168 magicka every second when damaging the target. Like I said, the Nightblade has it built in, magicka steal. So, really good ability. In fact, probably one of the best support abilities on the Nightblade, in my opinion, for group support, is the Debilitate. Next up, we have Reaper's Mark. Now, Reaper's Mark is no different than using the Restoration Staff or Destruction Staff's Elemental Susceptibility or Weakness to Elements ability. It puts Major Breach on the target. The difference is that this one, when an enemy, marked enemy dies, you heal for so much and you gain Major Berserk, increasing your damage done by 10% for 5 seconds. This scales off a portion of your max health. You can only have 1 Reaper's Mark active at a time. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say it's not as good as Elemental Susceptibility. It does the same thing, because even though it doesn't apply minor magicka steal like a lot of people would use this for, it still applies that Major Breach, and it has that bonus effect for you, which is actually going to play into this build really well, because of the fact that this build doesn't have to focus on power heals like burst heals. It can throw out a bunch of dot heals and then just keep attacking, light attacking, heavy attacking, whatever's necessary. That's the way the Nightblade is a very, very good build or good class for healing when you get it down. Next ability we have, of course, is Mystic Orb. This is a synergy, a really good synergy. So basically you send this out, it deals magic damage to nearby enemies, but it can also be activated. The synergy can be activated for the combustion synergy, causing the orb to explode and deal 7,795 magic damage to nearby enemies and restore 3,960 magicka or stamina to allies, whatever maximum is higher. So if you have higher max magicka, you're going to get magic back. If you have higher stamina, you're going to get stamina back. Alright, next ability we have on our bar is Enter Light. Now this is going to give you Major Prophecy, which increases your spell critical rating. It's also going to give you a little bit of max magicka, and then also to point out with the class and the Nightblade and the Siphoning Tree, they have a Magic Flood. Increases your max magicka by 8% with the Siphon ability slotted. You have 2 here, and over here you have 1. So you do have magic siphoning abilities slotted, and you will be using them quite a bit. And that's how you end up with the super high max magic pool, is you have 8% from this, and then it's 7% from this with a passive in the Mage's Guild. So it ends up giving you a ton of max magicka. Alright, next ability is kind of a one that you can float around if you don't want to use it, but it's one I keep on the bar primarily for the shadow tree. And that is the not refining shadows, it's the shadow barrier thing, or sorry, it is the dark vigor. And that is for the max health of 3%, because we do use a shadow ability on our back bar, and swapping you would lose some health a little bit, but it still makes a difference. So I keep this here mainly for that purpose, but it is also a great ability for your group, because you can put this down, it CCs the enemy, does damage every second, and then it also grants major protection to your allies standing within the circle, which reduces damage taken by 10%. And then allies can also activate the hidden refresh synergy, which turns them invisible, increases their movement speed, and heals them for 40k almost. It's really a good skill. Alright, moving to the back bar. First ability we have is Refreshing Path. Now, Refreshing Path is actually a super good ability, because it does a heal over time, but it also does major expedition. And as you can see, that's a 30% increase in movement speed for each person who walks into the path, but it also heals for 2,488 health to you and your allies in the area every second. So one of the big heals we get. And remember what I said, this build is about heal over time. So you have Funnel Health, which is a heal over time. You have the Refreshing Path, which is a heal over time. The next ability we have on our bar is our next big heal, and that is Sap Essence. Now, this is your burst heal, and it does take enemies to get this to effect. If you don't want to use this, you can swap it out with a Rest of Staff ability and everything else. But like I said, I will do the Rest of Staff swaps here in a second. I want to finish all the skills first. So, this one does magic damage to all nearby enemies and an AoE around you of 8 meters, and it heals you and your allies for 2,246 plus 20% more for each enemy hit. So the more enemies you hit, the bigger the heal. This is kind of like your burst heal, but you already have so many heal over times that the burst heal, it just kind of adds to that. If an enemy is hit, you gain major brutality, and major sorcery, increasing weapon and spell damage by 20% for 20 seconds. You do end up with a pretty high spell damage because of it. Next ability we have on our bar is kind of a floater ability. You can swap this out for other abilities if you want to, but I like using Mirage, mainly because it gives us major evasion and minor resolve. So this gives you the major evasion, which reduces your damage taken by area of attacks by 20%, and then increases your physical and spell resist by 2974 for 26 seconds. Now, in the shadow tree, you also have the shadow barrier, which gives you your major resolve for 6 seconds, increasing physical and spell resist by 5,948, and that's because you're going to have Refreshing Path up a lot. So you will get this for roughly 7.5 seconds, which is almost the full duration of this, but that's also why we have this in place. It's kind of like a counter backup. But it works out really well. And then last but not least, we have Siphoning Attacks. This one, anytime you deal a light attack or heavy attack, you will heal yourself or so much magicka or so much health, and depending on if it's a light attack or a heavy attack. Heavy attacks do restore twice the value of the heal and twice the amount of magicka. Now, you also restore up to 4,270 magicka when you recast it, or when the effect ends, or if you recast it, you get magicka back. This build doesn't have any problems with sustain at all. In fact, having the 2,000 max magicka isn't really necessary, but it helps. Or mag recovery, I should say, but it helps. Next up, Inner Light again for the Major Prophecy and the Max Magicka. And then last but not least, I know a lot of people go with Warhorn here, but I like the Replenishing Barrier, and there's a reason why. One, it's a really powerful damage shield you can cast on your allies, but each time the ward resolves, restore 4 ultimate and 1,000 magicka, which really can kind of keep you and your group, you sustained and your group alive. And then with the 4 ultimate coming back every time, it makes it easier to keep this reapplied. So you can keep this up quite a bit. But that's it for those skills. Now we're going to talk about the skills we can swap out on the restoration staff for a few other things. In the sense of, like, if Debilitate isn't enough for you for the Magicka Steal, swapping it out for Siphon Spirit is really good. This applies minor life steal and minor Magicka Steal. So you can get both the heal, the heal from damage anytime anyone deals any damage, and you can also get the Magicka Steal from when anyone does damage to a target. This is a really great ability that isn't widely used, but it can be used really effectively on the Nightblade, especially with the way this setup works. You will not swap out Funnel Health or this, but if you do want to, I would suggest using the Radiating Regeneration. It's a really good heal. It heals you and up to 3 nearby allies for 25,278 over 10 seconds. This actually winds up being a little bit more. I know it doesn't seem like it, but it does in the long term. Like, because you can crit heal this, or crit damage this, which increases the healing's effect, and then you can critically heal on top of it. So it makes it really good. Even though this can crit heal itself, but it never reaches the amount this does. The rest of the abilities here I would suggest keeping. Now, moving on to the back bar, we have the Refreshing Path. You can swap this out if you want to with the Combat Prayer if you want a burst heal, or if you want a better way of getting minor Berserk and minor Resolve to your allies. And that means you can actually drop your Mirage and take a different ability, which is Ward Ally, which is a great ability to have on the back bar. Really great for the fact that you can give yourself a shield and you can give an ally a shield, depending on who's missing the most health. And then, of course, the shield strength increases by up to 100% depending on the severity of the target's wounds. Power Extraction or Sap Essence can also be dropped if you want to drop it for Healing Springs. Another great one you can kind of part with. When you do this, though, just remember, you want to keep a siphoning ability on both bars. So Funnel Health really needs to stay, and Siphoning Attacks really needs to stay. The rest of them, you can drop some of them and take some of these other ones, and it doesn't make a huge, massive difference, but it does change the way the build plays and its effectiveness in group play. So, also, if you do swap to the rest of the staff, I would suggest putting Light's Champion on the back bar, and that's mainly because of the way it works. This one, you release rejuvenating energies of your staff to swirl around you, healing you and nearby allies for 11,000 health every second for 5 seconds, and adds minor force to your allies for 8 seconds, increasing their critical damage by 8%, or by 20%. It's really good, and it's a super cheap ultimate. It's 125, and with the Nightblade, they get ultimate pretty quickly due to a siphoning to this, the Catalyst. After drinking a potion, you gain 20 ultimate. They make it really easy to keep that specific buff up really well. So and that, my friends, is how you can swap out the rest of staff abilities with the Nightblade and make it even more user-friendly in some cases. This is a little bit more of a challenging build to play if you've never played it before, but it is very powerful in the way that it heals. It offers a lot of group heals. It offers a lot of group kind of, I wouldn't say utility, but it does offer the group a lot of resource return. because you are giving the Magicka Steel and you are giving Magicka recovery through the Worm Cult set. And that is this setup so far. Now we're going to take a look at champion points. The green tree doesn't change really much with this one or any of my builds, to be honest. You're always gonna want to unlock Rationer, Liquid Efficiency, Steed's Blessing, and Professional Upkeep, and primarily if you're doing a lot of dungeons. The rest of them are situational play, to be honest, based on what you're doing in the game. So if you're doing like farming or you're doing any of that other stuff, that stuff's going to come in. All these other things will come in handy in that situation. But in the most cases, Rationer, Liquid Efficiency, Steed's Blessing, and Professional Upkeep are ones I would suggest keeping for when you're doing dungeons or trials. Moving on to the blue tree, primarily you're going to want to stick to the Magicka passives and stuff, or Magicka boosts and stuff. This one, we're using the Staving Death. You are going to unlock all the passives, but the critical resistance, Eldritch Insight, Tireless Discipline, and Precision are the ones you're going to passives you're going to unlock here, along with the Blessed. When it comes to slotted, though, the Focus Mending, Swift Renewal, and Soothing Tide are going to be really important to get, along with Fighting Finesse. Now, a lot of people are going to say, why Fighting Finesse? This is about critical damage and critical healing. It's the critical healing aspects because of your dot heals. They become more like dot burst heals. So you're constantly keeping your group at max health really easy. And then when it comes to the Extended Might, you only need to go down one side, and that's the magic side. So this one grants more weapon and spell damage to magic attacks if they because of magic damage effects, frost effects, flame and shock, and you also get the magic status effect, 60% increase, and then of course the higher spell penetration. But that's pretty much it. I mean, there are other passives here you can take, or things you can take here that can give you a benefit, but that's the ones I would suggest unlocking primarily for this build to work really well. Moving on to the red tree, passive-wise, you can unlock all the passives that benefit you, as you can see I've done here. And then when it comes to slotted skills, Rejuvenation is really good because it does give you that health, magic, and stamina recovery of 150 extra for all three. And then the Spirit Mastery decreases the time it takes to resurrect an ally by 33%. You will be the one who wants to res people because you're also the healer, but because you have so many heal over times, you can actually do this as well, which makes it really nice. This is a good one too because while affected, your stat effect with the status effect, your combat skills cost 5% less per stage. Every ability you use with this build is a combat skill, so this one gives you a 25% cost reduction in all your abilities. Now, all your abilities not only do damage, they also do heals as well. And then, of course, Siphoning Spells restores a 1500 magicka whenever you kill an enemy. So really good passive there. And these are the ones I would suggest slotting. You can slot them any way you want. That's the slotted CP. Now, a lot of people are going to wonder, how does the build look like in combat or in use? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to take it to one of the newer dungeons. Just to kind of show you the effect of, it has on healing. Now remember, this does not show that the build works really well or anything like that. That really comes down to like playing it in a group. You'll really see its effectiveness to heals. But I do want you to see, like, it doesn't have any sustain issues, and it has no issues with like keeping the group alive. It's all about just keeping up buffs or keeping up certain skills most of the time and just activating others when needed. This build is also great for speed clears. And please do accept my apology for coughing so much. I can't do anything about it, guys.
Hey, you! What are you doing here?
Oops. Wasted an ultimate. Alright. Attack bar. And you can see, like, it's heavy attacks because of all the resource return we have and everything else. And then the fact that I did state that this build is really good at keeping up Bogdans. You'll see here as well that it can keep Bogdans coming in pretty well. And Bogdans will not always drop with you. It will drop wherever it's needed, kind of thing. And the other nice thing is this build does allow you to keep orbs going out as much as they're needed because of the resource management you have.
Look at this place. A lot more run down than I imagined.
And this build is also great for Maelstrom Arena runs. If you have an ice staff, it's even better.
Smoke. Something's on
Alright,
fire down
so
below.
that's pretty much the build itself. I mean, I could show you a little bit more when it comes to the skills and stuff, but I think that that's enough. It does exactly what I said it does. It has good heal over times, enough to keep your group capped pretty much at max health all the time, as long as they know where to stay within the heal's range. And you do have to be a little bit more up close in the fights to get that power extract, or the, not power extraction, the sap essence to work really well. But you can swap out some of these abilities, like I said. So you can actually swap out, like, I do this a lot. I'll swap out that, but I'll keep my refreshing path because it works better than the healing springs, no offense. And it does the minor berserk. But the heal from this is just insane for your group. So you can, and that's how I do my burst healing a lot of times when I'm in dungeons. Is just use combat prayer. So, but if you want to add a little bit more heal over time, healing springs is another one you can drop back here that's really good because you can put it down and then put your refreshing path on top, and then you've got your heal over time from funnel health. So, and then of course, like I said, you can also swap out Debilitate with the Siphon Spirit. It does drop your amount of damage you do, but you get this on the enemy. Remember what I said about the resources? It's really important to manage your resources, especially when it comes to blocking and all that. This allows you to do that. And then of course the reviving barrier, like I said, really powerful shield because it absorbs so much damage. You don't have to worry about anything. So you don't have to really, like, this is just like the healing is there just to keep your group topped up. And the rest of the time it's that shield is pretty much there to keep your stuff going the rest of the time. It gives it a new way to play the healer because most people are used to playing like the, Templar healer, whereas what I like to call the easy mode healer, because it is really easy to play that healer, where this one is a little bit more like it's a little bit more. You have to be on your toes a little bit more, I guess you could say. But I really like it, and I do like the fact that you can have more than one person with the minor magic skill on. So and with it being an instant cast that has no cost, that's also really nice. And there you go. Even in dangerous situations, this build is really quite powerful. But it's really up to the player how they want to play it. Some people find this type of play style to be lackluster. I really enjoy playing this healer. It's one of my favorites in the game. Nightblade healing and DK healing are some of my favorite ways to heal. So that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the build. If you did, you guys know what's coming next. Go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. And if you do subscribe, I do suggest clicking that notification bell to be notified when I post new videos. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day. And this guy might see you in game. Bye.